Hi, Peter here again. Thanks for dropping by for my blog. In today's blog post, we're going to talk about the follow-on next steps for achieving the vision for outstanding success. In my last blog post, which was quite a long one, I talked about the critical roles that CTL and IBI010 play in our ability to guarantee outstanding success for a data warehousing project. Now, if you do not have these tools at your disposal on your project, then you should have something very like them. If you want us to review the tools you're using and give you an honest appraisal, we would be very happy to do that. So today's blog is about taking the next step. You've built your data warehouse, so what do you do now, right? What do you do once you've got your data in the data warehouse? After all, a data warehouse does nothing for you until you make some decisions, right? Make some investments, change the business, and see how that works out. That's where the rubber meets the road. Now, if you have not watched the video below, and it's just below on the blog entry, what is data warehousing all about, please stop reading this blog post and catch up on that video. Please. I mean, that video, I know it's 90 minutes long, I know it's a long video, and I know that it seems to drag on a little bit, but that video is the best presentation I've done on data warehousing, what's data warehousing all about, in the last 20 years. I first saw that in 1993, and I've been presenting it since 1995. Please watch that video. Many people, after watching that video, have said to me, "Oh my God, this is what we've been really doing." He said, "You're the first person who's really explained this clearly so I can really get it," right? That's what that video presentation is. That's the best presentation I have. Now, I will presume that you know the content of that video after this post. Now, there is one, because business managers are always saying, I'm too busy to listen to a 90-minute presentation. There is a shorter one that's only 30 minutes long, and it's on the link there. It's okay. So now I presume you've listened to that 90-minute video, and I assume you know all about the management decision-making process discussed in that video. Simply put, your data warehouse has no value, none at all, no value, zip, zero, nada, until decisions are being made based on the data in the data warehouse that can only be made based on the data in the data warehouse. Then and only then can it be said that the data warehouse was responsible, indeed invaluable, in making these decisions possible. It is only when the data warehouse is invaluable and necessary for the business to run that it will be widely adopted and used. If it's just another reporting tool, then it might well be sidelined further down the line. The number one way to make sure that the data warehouse becomes indispensable and guarantees outstanding success is to use it for sales and marketing work. That's how you guarantee success. Use it for sales and marketing work. If you put your data warehouse to work in sales and marketing, and you make it mandatory for your marketing staff to build their marketing plans using the data warehouse, you will almost certainly guarantee outstanding success. Okay? Now, true story, I'm reminded of a client where the director of marketing of the subsidiary, so this is a big company and we were doing some work for a subsidiary. He was being nice to his marketing staff and not making the use of the data warehouse mandatory. The marketing analysts could build their marketing plans using whatever tools they liked and still get their budgets approved. After about 6 months of this, it was clear that the marketing staff were in great fear of putting the marketing campaigns into the data warehouse for fear the campaigns might not work out as forecast. It was much easier to hide failed marketing campaigns if they were not in the data warehouse, right? It was also the case that those who were successful were trying to hide their success from their colleagues so as not to share. Eventually, the marketing director held a kind of town hall meeting, he used to do on a regular basis, and he told his staff that he absolutely would never make anything mandatory as an edict because that's not his style. I'll never forget it. And he said everyone was free to use whatever tools they wanted. And then he finished with, it's just that if any member of staff does not copy the forecast for their campaigns to the data warehouse using whatever tools you want, then you won't get your budget approved, right? So use whatever tools you want, plan your campaigns however you want, but if you don't copy that into the warehouse, I'm not going to approve your budget. So not mandatory, just no budgets for their campaigns, right? And because everyone got the message. Now, of course, as the saying goes, then a funny thing happened. What had been happening was that the marketing analysts had been competing with each other. So they kept their secrets of how to create successful campaigns to themselves and let the other guys fend for themselves. They were not sharing. They were not playing nice in the sandpit. Of course, it's easier to be seen as successful if your colleague next to you is failing, right? If you're successful and he's failing, it's easier to be seen as successful. And if there's no motivation for you to share your secrets and the experience you've learned with your colleague, you're not going to do it, right? So once we had the forecasts and budgets of the campaigns in the warehouse, as well as the results, we were able to more easily see who was doing well. And the director of marketing started making a point of congratulating those people who were doing really well in front of all their colleagues, right? Social acceptance, public acknowledgement. Of course, now the guys who were struggling, okay, so the guys who were doing well were publicly praised in front of all their colleagues. So the guys who were struggling, they knew who to go and talk to, right? They knew who to go and talk to. The guys who were struggling knew who the best marketing analysts were, so they pestered them with questions and asked for tips. This new social status worked very well, and so the performance of all the marketing analysts were improving. Everyone was improving. So that's a really big step forward, right? So if you're going to make your data warehousing project an outstanding success, you want to aim it at sales and marketing in the first instance. Unless there is a compelling reason for version 1.0 of your data warehouse, unless there is a compelling reason otherwise, version 1.0 of your data warehouse should be all about sales and marketing to get early wins on the board. Anything where the data warehouse can contribute to sell more stuff, where the stuff is what your company sells, that's where you should put the bulk of your early exploitation projects. That's where you should put them. Now, yeah, look, I've been around for 33 years. I've been BI for 24 years. Yes, I get it. I know the Chief Financial Officer is very likely to want to use the data warehouse for finance, and he's going to be looking for cost cutting using the data warehouse. I know that. I get it. Look, grey hair, been around. There's no better way to snatch defeat from the jaws of outstanding success than to make the early exploitation projects all about finance and all about cost cutting. No better way, right? You can have the best damn data warehouse on the planet, you use it for cost cutting and finance, and you can ruin the reputation of that thing, right? People will soon come to hate the data warehouse as a symbol of cost cutting. You cannot cut costs to outstanding success, right? You don't do it that way. You do not get outstanding success by producing a P&L a few minutes faster. You get outstanding success by selling more stuff. Now, sure, you might do product rationalization and things like that in order to so that when you sell more stuff, you're not selling rubbish or you're not selling a loss and those sorts of things, right? But if you go for cost cutting, if you give in to the Chief Financial Officer, he says, I want to do an analysis right across the company and I want to cut costs left, right and center. If you do that, you have the opportunity of ruining the reputation of the warehouse and getting people resistant to it, right? So what you should work on is campaign management, sales and marketing, customer profiling, customer segmentation, those sort of things. Those are the areas where you can take some of the marketing budget and put it into an analysis work using the data warehouse, develop algorithms for the next best offer, and then you can run those next best offer campaigns with some form of coupon or feedback technique so you can tell the effectiveness of your campaigns. And I have seen some truly astonishing results from doing this over my 24 years, right? The very first time I saw a 20% purchase rate from direct mail for something so boring as accidental death insurance policies back in 1993, I swear I nearly fell out of my chair. We got these responses. I went, what? 20%? That's not possible. And that 20% purchase rate was from people who had never bought a product from us. Never bought a product from us ever in their lives. We sent them a letter and 20% of them bought this accidental death product. It was insane, right? Absolutely insane. We thought it was a mistake. We figured people were typing the data in wrong, right? The data entry guys, they're just doing it wrong. This can't possibly be true. And we actually went over and we actually insisted on seeing the pieces of paper that these data entry people said they were entering into the data entry system. We wanted to see the pieces of paper because we didn't believe any of this, right? So we verified for ourselves that these were indeed the forms we were mailing out, coming back to us with credit card numbers on it, with signatures. We wanted to see that. Sure enough, we were getting 20% purchase rates. So we tested again and again and again. And the response rates stayed stubbornly at 20% purchase rates for direct mail. So we rolled the campaign out, and through the life of the campaign, the rates averaged 18% for the letters sent out, right? 18% purchase rate for a product like accidental death to people who had never ever before bought anything from us, right? Insane. Now, even better, right? Now, that's what we thought, 18%. Even better, it was only a year later that we discovered that the return to sender mail was being thrown in the garbage, making our results even better. Because return to sender, you can't count that as a solicitation. It took us a full year to question the fact that we were getting no return to sender mail. We knew the guys in the call center worked hard to keep addresses of customers up to date, but no return to senders in a full year? That's not believable, right? So we're sitting around one day and we're saying, we're not getting any return to senders. This is not believable. So we went and investigated. Sure enough, down in the ground level, there was this guy in the mailroom. The mail came from the post office at the ground level. This guy in the mailroom who got all the return to senders, and he was throwing them in the bin, right? Hundreds of them, hundreds of these every week, return to senders. He was throwing them in the bin because no one had told him that we wanted them, so we knew which customers had moved and not told us. It's like, spammy. You take the return to senders and you throw them in the bin. You don't think this is important in a life insurance company? Spammy. So we were never able to find out just how good our campaigns were before then because we never knew how many of our letters were returned to sender. Once we were marking the returns to sender as not a valid solicitation and not to be counted in campaigns, we even got a campaign to get 30% purchase for direct mail. 30% purchase for direct mail. Insane. Now, my good friend who's now passed on, Sean Kelly, and I did one project in Moscow where we mailed out coupons for freebie giveaways for trial products. The take-up of the coupons, well, that was like 100%. Russians love a freebie giveaway. I mean, in Russia, you give away a freebie, everybody will take it, right? And we constructed these campaigns of 3 freebie giveaways of a product and then stopped the giveaways. Sure enough, we were getting retention rates nigh on 30% for the products after the promotion ended. Fully 30% of those who got the giveaways went on to become regular users of these products. 30%. Those are insane numbers, right? Those are insane numbers. When you have 25,000 products on your SKU list, you can soon see the power and benefit of pointing your data warehouse at the sell more stuff problem. Now, every extra sale you can get using the data warehouse is extra profit as long as you are selling products at a profit, which is not always the case, right? So if you want your data warehousing project to be guaranteed outstanding success, once you have built it and you have good data flowing into it, use it to figure out next best offer on a mass scale and improve your algorithms for next best offer as much as you can. You'll be making money on your data warehouse investment in no time, right? That's what you do. Now, true story, and I have said this before on my blog, and I've said it many times in person. So if you've heard it before, just skip over this. But true story, I'm often asked, Peter, what is the most successful data warehouse project you have ever done? That's one of the most asked questions I get, right? Now, the one that I like to use, it's not the one that made the most money, by the way. It's the one that did the biggest corporate turnaround that I like to talk about. The one that comes to mind as the most successful project was one where the data warehouse was paid for even before we finished building it. And that's pretty damn successful, right? If you've not read about it before, you can read about it on this page. But if you haven't heard about it, you can listen to this. The story goes like this. Australian Consolidated Press, ACP, was one of Kerry Packer's companies back in 2000, and Kerry Packer being the richest man in Australia. And ACP was in trouble. Kerry himself called it a dog with fleas. James Packer, who was Kerry's son, was supposed to be looking after ACP, and one of his best friends was running ACP. It was so bad, Kerry stepped in and fired James's friend and installed a man by the name of John Alexander as a new managing director. And this happened, heaven forbid, this happened right before the start of our project. And, John was only in the job a few weeks when we met him. And John was not too sure what he'd gotten himself into because the performance of ACP was poor and everybody knew it because Kerry was saying so publicly, right? Now, at the time, ACP published about 90 magazines and books and had a 37% share of the Australian market. But in 2000, the magazine market was hyper-competitive, just hyper-competitive, and the internet was eating into its profits as well. A perfect storm of competition was doing a lot of damage to ACP over what it was 10 years previously, right? Now, ACP had a sister company called National Distribution Management, or NDM. And NDM was responsible for distributing all the magazines and books to the 7,000 or so outlets around the country, Australia being a very big country. Now, because NDM were already going to 7,000 outlets at least once a week, they also bid to deliver other people's products to those outlets. You could just pay NDM, give NDM what it was you wanted to put out there, and they would distribute it, right? As things happened, right, just as things happened, Reader's Digest, which was still pretty big back in 2000, they've really died off a lot. Reader's Digest had put out a tender for 5 years of delivery. NDM had bid on this and lost. The first we knew about it was when the managing director of NDM came to our CIO and asked him if he had any ideas. They'd been told, this big deal, Reader's Digest delivery, 7,000 outlets, 5 years, you guys lost, bad luck. The managing director come to us and said, well, you guys got any ideas? What should we do now, right? Might have been a good idea to ask us before you told you were lost, right? So the CIO said, no, he didn't have any ideas about how to do this. That wasn't his job. But he said, no, I got a couple of guys working for me. They might have some ideas, right? So we were invited, the lead business analyst consultant, one Clint Morgan, who is a great guy and we're still pals. We're invited to a meeting to brainstorm ideas about how to try winning the Reader's Digest account even after we'd been told we'd lost. And because we'd been told we'd lost, no idea was too outrageous, so all ideas were welcome. The managing director of NDM had secured a promise from Reader's Digest that they would give him one last opportunity to pitch. So, literally, desperation stakes, no idea too outrageous. We got one more chance to win this deal, so what do you got, basically? That's the way that presentation worked, right? So Clint put forward the idea that we should promise Reader's Digest that we would have our data warehouse calculate the sales volume from Reader's Digest by 9 a.m. every morning and have it available on their desktops in their offices. So a forecast for each of the 7,000 outlets aggregated together, put onto the desktops, the best we can do. And remember, this is 2000. So when the managing director of MDM asked Clint, can we really do that? because he's going to pitch it, right? He's going to be standing out there and pitching it. So he went, can we really do that? Clint's answer was priceless. I love Clint. I mean, he's just great. And his answer that day was priceless. He just looked at the guy and said, how the hell would I know? Besides, it doesn't matter unless if they don't buy it, right? And yeah, sure enough, Reader's Digest bought the 5-year delivery deal from NDM, and our promise to give them daily sales figures was on their desktops was cited as a major differentiator. No one else had offered that. I mean, of course no one else had offered it. We didn't know whether we could do it ourselves. So then we had to figure out what to do, how to do what we promised. Now, Clint was anointed. He was just anointed as a marketing superstar for coming up with the idea, right? And when he was retrenched from Infomex at the end of the year, ACP were only too happy to give him a job, and he was there for like 5 years before he moved on. So now, of course, I mean, I was a vendor. I was never told how much a 5-year deal to Reader's Digest to deliver 7,000 outlets was worth. But the data warehouse, as the vendor, I knew that the budget for the data warehouse was 300,000 Australian dollars for the 3 months development work, plus all the software and hardware, and the first 3 months running costs. We helped work out the budget of $300,000. Now, you can be very sure, absolutely certain, that the profit from the Reader's Digest deal was far more than the $300,000 ACP were paying for the project, right? The results from that project were staggering, even by the standards of my clients, right? So the first thing is they got the Reader's Digest deal, which that was obviously more than the $300,000 cost, and the deal was done before the data warehouse was even finished, right? But after that, once we went live, the results were staggering even by my client standards. And my clients have had some pretty staggering results over the years, right? Over the first 2 years of operation, so 2 years, with marketing superstar Clint Morgan at the helm, guiding what was going on, ACP doubled their gross profit, right? Kerry Packer said this is a dog with fleas, and in 2 years we turned it around and doubled the gross profit of the company. They went from 37% market share to 42% market share with a commensurate increase in advertising revenues from their magazines. That's what happened inside 2 years, right? And they've been trying to solve this problem for some years beforehand. I've been involved in that. So Kerry Packer, the richest man in the country, who had called ACP a dog with fleas just 2 years earlier, who had fired the managing director and installed his own man at the annual general meeting called ACP, quote, and I love this, I love saying this, the jewel in the corporate crown, right? That's what Kerry Packer said. 2 years previously, he called it a dog with fleas and fired the managing director, came out of retirement to fire the managing director. 2 years later, called it the jewel in the corporate crown. That is what outstanding success looks like, which is why I love telling the story, right? Now, Kerry promoted John Alexander, who went on to head up the Packer group of companies, right? Now, when ACP was eventually sold off by James after Kerry's passing, it was rated as one of the top 10 publishing houses in the world. In the world, right? That is what I call outstanding success. It's since been bought by a German company. So ACP was not the company that made the most money from a project I sold. That the most money from a client that I advised was the National Australia Bank. Right? They made the most money out of advice that I gave them. But others also did very well. But ACP, they are the company that had the most spectacular corporate turnaround, and they had the most high profile of owners, Kerry Packer, right? So yes, if your aim for your data warehousing efforts at sell more stuff, so yes, if you aim your data warehousing efforts at sell more stuff once you have it up and running, your chances of outstanding success are vastly improved. Whether you use our tools, which of course I'm going to say are great, or whether you build your own data warehouse, your own data model, whatever you do, if you focus on sell more stuff, you'll have a much greater chance of outstanding success, right? That's what to do next once you've got a data warehouse, is sell more stuff. So if you got this far, this one's substantially shorter. I can see 25 minutes. So if you got this far, thank you for reading or listening. I hope this was useful to you. Until next time.